Center field, going back is Gonzalez. It is gone! Two-run home run by Schwarber. Stays put, and there's a high fly ball. Deep right field. Harper watches it fly.
And we are back for season 4 of the Double Switch podcast. 4 years it's been. 4 years. A lot has happened, but we're back. 1 week until spring training. Actually, 8 days until spring training. The dark days are over. The truck is on its way to Clearwater as we speak. In about 4 weeks, we will also be on our way to Clearwater. And before you know it, we'll be right into the heart of the baseball season. It's coming up quick, and I could not be more excited. How are you doing, Johnny?
I'm great, man. Season 4, that's kind of crazy. I was thinking about that before the episode. I'm like, wow. Time's really flying, but having a great time doing it. And I was just down in Florida this weekend. I got spring training fever. I got my Eagles playoff mustache. Vibes are high. Feeling good about the season. Feeling real good. I'm excited to dive into prospects today.
Yes, season 4 of this podcast, it makes me feel very old. And after researching some of these prospects, I feel like a senior citizen. Because seeing some of these ages on these kids and some of the years they were born, it's eye-opening. But it makes me feel good at the same time because, there's some really young guys in the system with some serious upside. And some of the better prospects that we've seen in our recent memory are currently in the system. So I'm excited to talk about them. I guess we can probably start at the top, right?
Yeah, no, I think just to kind of hit on what you were saying there. No, I think just by doing some of this research and listening to Rob Thompson the other day speaking, it makes you really feel good that the Phillies are kind of filling the system while players are aging. It looks like we have like our vets in the big leagues. We have our young guys in the big leagues, and we have a really nice group coming up. So it's really exciting. I don't think everyone truly appreciates what prospects mean to the future of this team, but that's why we're diving in. Excited to do it.
Yeah, usually when you see teams as good as the Phillies, the prospects, there's kind of like a negative correlation there where you see really good teams with really bad farm systems. But the Phillies have built a pretty solid farm system. I believe Keith Law had us at 11, which is it's pretty good. 11 or like 13 or something, upper half of Major League Baseball. And it's a very top-heavy system. And I think that's kind of where we can get started because the headliner here perhaps the best pitching prospect that we have seen since Cole Hamels, maybe. Andrew
as
Painter.
A Philly, yeah.
Yeah, Andrew. No, yeah. In history, all right. Let's not get there yet. But as a Philly, Andrew Painter, he is the headliner. I'm gonna just base my list off of Keith Law. He had him at number 12. He's top 2, top 3 prospect in terms of pitching in baseball. And Johnny, is the hype real? Do you think that, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves with Andrew Painter, or do you see something here that can one day lead to him being like a front of the rotation arm that a lot of people are projecting him to be?
We're not getting ahead of ourselves with Andrew Painter. I mean, if anyone's watched him for more than like 9 innings of baseball, you realize that he has special arm talent, and he kind of reaffirmed that when he came back from Tommy John, showcased in the Arizona Fall League, and showed that his stuff's still there. And obviously he still has to rebuild his strength in his arm, but things look really good for Andrew Painter. And my confidence in him has really never wavered. I still see him as like a young Justin Verlander type. I think everyone's a little bit kind of distracted by how great Paul Skeens was last year when he came up. But I think Andrew Painter could be better than Paul Skeens.
Yeah, we actually should probably praise Paul Skeens because he's taken a lot of the pressure off of Andrew Painter. He was the guy, and Andrew Painter was always there. He's 6'8". He's ginormous. If you're going to see him for the first time, you're going to be like, oh my God, that guy's a pitcher. But he can control his body really well, which is rare among pitchers that tall. He can repeat his mechanics super well. You see that, the Dylan Betances of the Yankees, he was very tall and he had issues repeating his mechanics. Painter has no issues doing that, and that leads him to be very consistent within the zone. Excellent control for someone his age. I think he's just 20 now. He hasn't even turned 21 yet.
Nope.
Terrific command of the strike zone. And that by itself would be a good trait. But you couple that with his fastball that can get up to the high 90s, and he can touch 100 if he wanted to. I firmly believe that. It's a special combination.
Yeah.
And I just, it's just
Honestly,
incredible to see a high school pitcher develop that well. You usually don't see that. We complain about high schoolers and the trajectory that they sometimes take, but we did very well with his development process, and he's very polished for a 20-year-old.
yeah, absolutely. And kind of, we'll just take it back to Skeens. All the writing on the wall right now is that we're going to get the Paul Skeens approach to bring up Andrew Painter, plus factoring a pretty severe surgery recovery. And based off everything I'm seeing, it really seems like mid-June is a very realistic target. It seems like the innings in these first 2 months are going to be like, I wouldn't be shocked if he had maybe 50 innings pitched coming into like mid-June. I think they really want to like work him up, do like that 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings, like slowly. And then I really truly believe that mid-June we're going to see Andrew Painter on this team.
Yeah, so we're not going to see him in spring at all. Dave Dombrowski
Nope.
came out and said that.
It's a good idea.
He's going to get compared to Skeens quite a bit, but Skeens wasn't coming off Tommy John, like you said, so it's a little different. Just push the timetable back probably a month, like you said. And I'm sure once he gets to AAA, he's going to carve up just about everybody. I'm fully expecting that. And
yeah, I think what's really similar about the two though is that like you look at like Paul Skeens' is like number totals, like how he had 27 innings in the minor leagues and then 133 in the majors. I think that just feels like it's bound to happen.
Yeah, and I fully expect the transition to go well to the majors, just like Skeens did. Maybe not as well. Skeens was like a generational type rookie season, but his stuff is going to translate well to the majors once he gets here. And, down the stretch, he's going to be providing some key innings, whether it's, just starting the game and getting 3-4 innings, or whether we're actually having him stretched out to go deep. There will be an impact provided by Andrew Painter. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, no, that's the question. We know he'll make an impact. It's just how much and how soon. But I think with that, I think we covered Andrew Painter. I think he's the most talked about guy in our farm right now. Well, number 2 is pretty damn close though.
Aiden Miller, and he might be a little more fun to talk about if I'm being completely honest, because not as many people know about Aiden Miller, but he might be just as good as Andrew Painter, except on the other side of the ball. This might be the best positional prospect that we've seen. Alec Bohm was very good back in 2020, but Andrew Painter skyrocketed up, prospect list. Keith Law had him all the way up at 13. What sticks out about him, and when can we expect to see him on the infield in Citizens Bank Park?
Well, he came out of the draft with a hit tool that's similar to a guy that played 2 years in college, out of high school. For those who weren't familiar with it, it's just his natural gap power, and his natural power is just, it's rare. And the guy hasn't even put it all together, and has fairly good like on base percentage, fairly good understanding of the strike zone. This season, it's just if he's able to kind of become a really patient, disciplined hitter and really like focus on that, then really like his ceiling just gets even crazier, because I think everyone expects him to be a pretty high slug guy. But right now, like OBP kind of lacks behind there. I think that's really should be the goal for him this season.
Yeah. So out of high school, he was hurt, and that's why he fell to us at 27, which was very fortunate that the Phillies were in that position, because this was a top half of the draft type talent. He easily could have been a top 15 pick. He has an innate ability to be coached. And by that, I mean, he knows where he has to improve, and he's very good at, controlling his body and making those adjustments. From what I've seen, he can absolutely stay at shortstop. I know that was a talking point. People were kind of debating whether he would eventually slide over to third base. He can be a shortstop 100%. And Trey Turner, his defense hasn't been super good, so I think there's a very good chance that we're looking at Aiden Miller as a starting shortstop in 2026. I don't want to put the clock on the guy, but he's moving at a very good pace. And when I see the swing, it's a very interesting swing because it's long. I don't know if you've had a chance to study a swing. It's a very long swing, but it doesn't have the holes that people with long swings typically have. Like Javi Baez is an example of a super long swing, and I see little similarities, but he has much better pitch recognition, and he can cover all parts of the zone a little better than those guys like the Nick Castellanos. And that's a skill. That's a skill that he's developed. It's just a matter of him continuing to refine his hit tool. The power will obviously always be there. The defense, I think, is plenty good to be, an average shortstop in the major leagues. And there's an all-star outcome here for Aiden Miller. He's that level of talent. It's just stay the course and continue growing and getting better. And I'm excited about him too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That was all really well said. And for those who weren't paying attention, towards the end of the year, he got promoted up to Double-A. Only played 5 games there, so obviously we should expect him to start in Reading. Probably play a good chunk of the season there, but it's not crazy to think that he'll end the season with a couple Triple-A games under his belt. I think that's very realistic. And just thinking about some of his capabilities and his production, I start to think he's like a right-handed Corey Seager with like his makeup. I will not be doing comparisons for everyone because I kind of hate him. But I was thinking about that one earlier, and I had to say it out loud.
You've already given comparisons for the first 2 people. What are you talking about?
Well, it's because I love those guys. The rest, I don't have anyone for the rest.
Okay. Aiden Miller, he's very good. We're clear consensus there. Let's move on to number 3, Justin Crawford, much, much more heavily debated baseball player ultimately. Totally. And you go first because I'm curious to hear your perspective. You have a little more background on the prospects. What's your gut instinct tell you about Justin Crawford?
He absolutely rakes. He's such a natural hitter. It's kind of insane. I think where all the hesitation comes with him is that he's not putting the ball in the air. He's not hitting home runs. He's not hitting doubles. That, frankly, to me, is not what the Phillies need as a team. We have those guys. We need a guy with the profile of Justin Crawford who can get on base. He can steal bags at the top of the lineup or wherever they want him. Very good fielder. I think my only qualm with him is his strikeout to walk ratio. I think for a guy that does not have power at a high rate, I think he's going to need to take more walks and strike out less.
Yeah, so you did a good job breaking it down. Let me provide some context here with Justin Crawford. The only thing people actually agree on is the speed. That's the one thing people just across the board agree on. He's incredibly fast, and he's going to steal bases no matter what. In center field, he's a very good defender, but there's a debate amongst analysts whether he's a good defender because he's fast, or whether his speed kind of bails him out, and he doesn't get the best jumps. And as he ages, it's going to be more clear that he's not a very good center fielder. He's just really fast. That's heavily debated. And then with the bats, he chases a lot for a hitter who relies on contact, but he doesn't strike out a ton, which is weird. And I don't love hearing that because you do see hitters like this is the second time bringing up Javi Baez on the podcast. Who would have thought? When Javi Baez was putting it together and, he was swinging and missing, he was able to kind of cover it up because the tools were sharp. He was young. He was athletic. And he put together, almost an MVP type season. You can get away with that for a while. Can't get away with that forever. And now Javi Baez is a backup shortstop. That has to get better. I think he needs to kind of get on top of the swing and miss and kind of form a better identity of a hitter. You know what I mean? It's a profile that can work, but it's not guaranteed to work. That's why he's much more risky and heavily debated than the other guys at the top of the list. Some people have him as high as, the mid top 100. Some people don't even talk about him. And it's very interesting. He does have the pedigree, Carl Crawford's son, which is always, that's a good thing. You have the baseball blood. But he's going to be a very interesting person to watch develop. Yeah, there's a wide range of outcomes for him.
There really is. I think we both kind of hit on the fact that plate discipline for him, pitch selection is going to be the differentiator, whether he is on the bottom of the spectrum, like a Ben Revere, or if he's on the top of the spectrum, like his uncle, like Johnny Damon, like Jacoby Ellsbury, like those type of guys. It'll be fun. I think spring training, he's one of the guys I think everyone should be most excited to see, because if everything goes well, his timeline could get really, 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 really short for the big leagues.
Yeah. Very interesting player to watch. And I think if we're touching upon guys who I'd be comfortable trading, I'm not saying trading these guys. If somebody comes along and they see did you lose me here?
No, I hear you.
Okay. Can you see me still?
You're frozen, but I hear you and see you.
Okay. Yeah, if somebody comes along and says, we think Justin Crawford's like an all-star, future all-star, and we're willing to give you like proven talent, I think you listen, but I don't think you listen on the first two guys. So that's where the line's kind of drawn.
Yeah. And I hear you. I don't really know who would be a major league ready player that would be a good swap for him, because I think outfield is something that we really need in the future. But I hear what you're saying.
Okay. Top three. Let's move on to number 4.
That's a good one.
Yeah, catcher. You mind pronouncing his name for me? I wasn't quite sure how to say his name.
I believe it's Eduardo Tait.
Okay. Yeah, the last name kind of got me tripped up. 18-year-old catcher. 18. He's what's a 2006 birthday. He is a young kid.
Yeah.
We're talking like this is not JT Realmuto replacement. He's farther down the line than that.
I think there's a gap, but
there's a gap that we will have to fill. But next year, not yet. The hit tool is very strong. The catching tool not as strong.
Arm is good.
Arm's good. There's debate amongst the community about whether he can catch full time. He's obviously 18, so it's hard to form an opinion at this point. So much time for him to grow and build upon those skills, but he's another one who's flying up draft boards.
Yeah, I mean, for good reason. The raw tools that he displays, it's just you don't really see it out of catchers that often with that sort of hit tool. I'm intrigued. If I still think there's a possibility catcher might not be his position. Not really my place to say, just kind of speculation there, but it's a tough one. I mean, he's 18 years old, like you said. He played in I believe it was the Dominican Venezuelan Development League for a lot of last season, and then made it onto the Clearwater Threshers to finish the season, and looked really good there too, which is elevated talent. And I really think huge power right now. You look at his line at 302, 356, 486 with an 842 OPS. It's crazy, but I think it'll be interesting to see if he can sustain that through more games, because the developmental leagues don't play as many games. And then I think it's got to be a goal for the Phillies to get him up to Jersey Shore by the end of the year, get him up against other talent his age.
Yeah, what's important with him is kind of patience. The hit tool is way ahead of an 18-year-old. You just don't see that type of hit tool, which is the reason people are so excited at this point. The rest of the tools are probably where they should be. It's like you said, he's 18. You usually don't see a hit tool, and that's kind of changed our perspective on him because, now other tools are lagging. That's not the case. His hit tool is just way ahead of where it should be. But yeah, I think, a couple of years down the road, he could have a bat that could force his way into the lineup. It's probably too early to be projecting that out. And I think this year is going to be a big year to see how he can kind of grow as a catcher, because if, he's not improving this year, next year, then maybe we start thinking about moving him off of catcher and, into an infield position or something. But yeah, 18-year-old that rakes, you can never have enough of those in your system, right?
Yeah, no, I think the Phillies need more of those, the type of prototypes. I think everyone in baseball would take more of those guys if they could.
Yes, and with him, he is the final piece of the top 100s that we have. So cue the music. Time. Oh man, I miss trivia time. The music execution,
Yeah.
we could improve. We'll improve on that.
It's kind of a wonky setup on this platform for the
right,
music.
Johnny.
I tried.
Let me explain this to you. It is me against you. I have the questions. You may or may not have the answers.
How many questions?
This is going to be a list. You have to list them. You get 3 strikes. 3 strikes and you're out. You lose this question, okay? But if you can somehow avoid those 3 strikes, you win.
All right, and if I win,
Point for you.
what do I get?
You get a point.
I thought you were gonna pay me. Okay, all right.
Since 2011, the Phillies system has obviously had some highs and lows. Can you name for me the 10 different players who have been the top prospect in the Phillies farm system? Since 2011, 10 people have topped the farm system. Shoot.
Well, Jesse Biddle.
What? How did you go to Jesse? Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting
Jesse
Biddle first. That was okay. That's one.
All right, Mickey Moniak.
1 strike.
Wait, you said number 1 prospect
In the system. Mickey Moniak was never the number 1 prospect in the system. That's 1
number
strike.
2. All right, I'll just get some easy ones out of the way then. Andrew Painter.
2.
We had that week period of time where it was probably we had a time period where it wasn't very top heavy. It was a bunch of mid guys battling for the number 1 spot there. So
these are some names. I think these are some names. You should be able to get these.
Oh man, I didn't study up my prospects here, but I
sense a win coming for Josh.
And you probably will. All right, I'll just fire off some ones then. Cornelius Randolph.
Awful guess. 2 strikes.
Oh, dude, I was not expecting this trivia question.
Awful guess. Oh my god.
I thought I was gonna have to answer a question, not list out a novel. And then
2 strikes, and you have 8 names.
Oh, this is gross for me. I'm ashamed. And Spencer Howard was never number 1. He was number 2.
He's 2021. I'll give that to you. He was 2021 top prospect. That's 3.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna lose this. So I'll just go out firing here and choose. Bomer.
Bohm was 2019 and 2020, so you have 4 out of 10. So you need 2022 and a bunch of pre-2018 guys.
Dominic Brown.
2011, that's 5. So you need 2012, 2014, 2015 through 17, and 2022.
Wait, okay. Wait, what was the last one?
2022.
McAble.
3 strikes. You lose this
question. Oh, really? I thought he was 2022.
Bryson Stott.
That was
you missed.
That makes sense.
You missed. Okay, the first 2 were tough. 2012 was Trevor May. I didn't think you were going to get that one.
No, but
2014 was Maikel Franco.
Yes.
2015 through 17 was J.P. Crawford, and 2018 was 2018 was Sanchez.
Oh my gosh,
that is a point for me.
Yeah, that was. I can concede that was bad. I owe you $10.
Poor showing to start the season. 1-0, Josh.
All right.
Yeah, that goes to show you the prospects, man. It's been a journey here.
That it certainly has.
Let's get into the rest, or just the rest of the guys. Let's kind of discuss some of the other names here.
I think
I'll go to you first. Let's start with the next best guy for you.
Yeah, I think for me, this is where you start to this is subjective. I think the first 4 are quite objective. Those guys, highest pedigree. They're the tier 1, tier 2 guys. Now I kind of break tier 3. For me, it's I'll start with there's 2 pitchers in mind. My first one, Gene Cabrera, really good arm that's kind of been really just made waves this past season. He's really been quiet, a little bit of injuries in the past, but just really, really good strikeout stuff. And he's already up in Jersey Shore, so things are moving quickly for him.
Yeah, no, super good fastball, can get up to 99 miles an hour. Changeup's a terrific out pitch. From what I could see, just about all of his swings and misses were coming on the changeup. Um, those are the two pitches there that are very, very good. Whether he's one of those guys, if he can develop the third pitch, you're talking really good, starter. But I know he has the big loopy slurve slider that, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. That's going to be the key to him.
Yeah.
But I think that, it's a good arm to have in your system.
Yeah, I think that's one to look at as a potential switch away from
Yeah,
starting pitching.
agreed.
The stuff clearly plays. A lot of people are kind of saying like the Orion Kirkring type of mold with that good fastball, big loopy slider. So we'll see if the Phillies development is kind of thinking the same thing there.
Agreed. What else you got?
Yeah, just to finish that one off, I wouldn't expect him in 2025, midseason 2026. If you want to kind of have like a guesstimate ETA, that's kind of where it's tracking. I think the second one's a fun one, and I know, Josh, I know this is one of your absolute favorite prospects, a guy that was acquired midseason last year from the Orioles farm system and is really advanced for where he is in the minor leagues. That's going to be Moises Chasse.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell this story for the eighth time on this podcast. I know everybody
Please.
who listens is getting very sick of it. It was mid-July. Josh was at the Blue Claws game. If you guys didn't hear, I'm a season ticket holder. So, it was a hot afternoon. And, I was catching some Blue Claws baseball. And there's this guy in the Orioles farm system. And, I was, just talking. And I keep hearing the glove pop. It was popping. When you nice broken in glove, you hear it pop. And I'm like, wow, I guess, that sounds good. I wonder who that guy is. I look up. And our guy is on the mound. He's on the mound for the Orioles. And I was like, wow, this guy's kind of pumping. How old is this kid? This is a good pitcher for Jersey Shore. Usually you don't see these guys here. I was impressed, and I didn't think of it again. And then come trade deadline time, would you look at that? The Phillies, maybe Dave was there that night. Maybe he also heard the pop of the glove, and he liked what he saw. And suddenly we bring him over. And before you know it, I mean, people are talking about, is that how you say his last name? I thought it was, okay. Chasse. But he has a good arm, and he's a guy who can provide some deception, which makes his stuff play up. And that's just an advantage. You have guys who have great stuff, but they can't put it together. But that's just another leg to his abilities. They kind of make him intriguing. They make him very intriguing for this year. I don't know if he's going to be starter, but the stuff plays. We seem to be developing him quite well compared to where he was in the Orioles system. The K numbers were outrageous once he came over.
Truly,
I'm pretty pumped, dude. I'm pumped because he feels like my guy. I found him that July, after that hot July night. I found him at Jersey Shore.
I would say that he would be your guy. I think we can label that official.
He's got to be my guy at this point. Okay.
I think we're both going to have to label our guys. Mine's coming up still, my guy. But, I mean, just to kind of hit on what you said, to give people the full image, I must say, Josh, you were speaking like you were reading a Mike Lupica book, and it brought me back to my childhood.
It was late July.
80 innings pitched, 124 strikeouts.
That's outrageous.
It's outrageous. And on top of that, he has Saquon Barkley, Spencer Strider legs. So we'll see how that plays out and develops. But
all in.
Josh, do you have a thought process on ETA there?
I don't see why he can't be on the team this maybe the back half of this season. At this rate, I mean, he's come over and the trajectory has just gone up. He's speeding up, his stuff's getting better and sharper, and he's accelerating his timeline just by being in the system and developing.
Yeah, it does feel like we got him at literally the perfect time where everything's working for him. There's not much that we could have done to do this, so it might have just been really cool timing for the Phillies. But good for us.
Yeah, just worth mentioning. Might be my favorite Dombrowski trade so far. Soto
Yeah,
for Seth Johnson and Chesay. It's a
yeah,
good
it's
one.
good. Seth Johnson is not on this list at all, but still good depth. I think that brings us to our next. I'm going to leave the pitchers behind. I think those are the two pitchers uh, behind Painter that you should keep an eye on. Abel, McGarry. If you're waiting for that, I don't think we're going to talk about that because I don't think they're going to make an impact this year for anyone. Well, maybe for the minor leagues, not for the Phillies, I mean. I think that brings me to my guy, Gabriel Rincones Jr. Big guy. Big guy
Big guy.
out of
He's a big guy.
yeah, he's huge. He looks like he should be a middle linebacker on Birds, but he is a corner outfielder with massive power out of Scotland, and he's really been tearing it up. The one thing has been the injuries. The injuries are kind of crushing him, which tends to happen to the bigger players, but he's a guy that has shown that he can hit lefties and righties well as like a power hitting lefty, which is rare. He plays a solid defense and could be a solution to one of our corner outfield spots as soon as the end of the year.
Fully agree with everything said. Big guy. He's not going to win any athleticism competitions. He's adequate in the outfield. He's a little slow around the
23 stolen
bases.
bases last year.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
he can move.
Yeah, it's just a profile that lends itself to injuries, like you said. But you can hit. We'll find a spot for you eventually, and he just keeps hitting.
No, that he does. That he does. I think similar strikeout to walk ratios like Justin Crawford. Puts the ball in play a lot. Doesn't really strike out a lot, but also doesn't walk a lot. So I think that's a common issue in the Phillies organization right now. And I think that's one of those things that will unlock his potential as well.
Agreed. And why don't you round us out with your last guy, who I don't know anything about him, so I'm going to let you kind of take the lead on this one.
Yeah, this is kind of a guy. It's a weird one because I mean he's been in the minor leagues since because he got drafted 2019. It'd be Otto Kemp. I think everyone kind of really started to hear about him end of the season because he was up in AAA at the end of the season, absolutely raking, and then went to the Arizona Fall League and really put on a show. I'll just read off this 2024 line because, frankly, it's incredible stuff. He had a 285 average, 392 on base percentage, and an 881 OPS with 24 doubles and 16 home runs. The guy can hit, and the guy he's a third baseman comfortably, but he's a guy that's been vocal about willing to play second base, first base, left field, or right field. So he's like a major league level talent that is willing to play all over the place, and he's a right-handed bat that does crush lefties, which I think just favors him so much with the layout of this team.
Yeah, when you were going through all of that, you know who I thought of?
Who?
We could have been having this conversation last year about Weston Wilson. That is Weston Wilson.
I don't think it's Weston Wilson.
You think it's better than Weston Wilson? Because Weston Wilson's a utility player in the majors. Do you think he has a better outcome?
I think Weston Wilson has a fun power tool, but you look at Weston Wilson's history even in the minor leagues.
Crushes lefties.
Yeah, but not an on-base guy. Not at all. And I think that is the difference between the two. I think Otto Kemp has a much more mature approach, and I would feel more comfortable with him playing those several positions than I would Weston Wilson.
Is he destined for a backup role in the majors, or do you think there's a starter type outcome for him?
If he's on the Philadelphia Phillies, I think it's a bench role.
Okay. But I mean, at the end of the day, you do need guys like that to step up, like Weston Wilson, and it's encouraging to see us developing these guys, and you start to add up these guys in your system, the organizational depth, and eventually you're going to hit on one of them. Eventually some guy's going to come up and break through. It's just the way it goes, and who knows? It might be Otto Kemp.
Well, and even look at it. I mean, I think that both of us have talked about it, how it's a little disappointing that the Phillies didn't really do a lot to try to improve the bench when there's teams like the Dodgers that have a bench that's so deep it's kind of ridiculous. I think that is one spot that we're just kind of ignoring and hoping that the continuing on with Weston Wilson, Rodolfo Castro, Edmundo Sosa. I think this kind of puts some pressure on those guys like Sosa and the Weston Wilsons, who really didn't. I mean, I would say Sosa produced to what we expected, but Weston Wilson last season would not say he produced like we would want him to off the bench. So I think it makes some competition in spring training for that right-handed bench spots on a left-handed heavy team.
Agreed. And from what I understand, I don't know if Cabrera is going to be there, but the rest of these guys are going to be in spring training.
Yep, every single one except for Cabrera.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not going to see Painter, but the rest of the guys are going to be, getting a serious look. So it wouldn't be the most surprising thing to see one of these guys break camp. It's just the way it goes. We mentioned the top 8, subjectively the top 8, our idea of the top 8.
Our top 8.
We didn't mention, like you said, Mick Abel, who is still a prospect technically, probably make or break year for him. So it's worth monitoring that situation. Griffin Gary, unfortunately not a prospect anymore. It's probably not happening at this point. A couple more names. Alex McFarlane is an interesting guy.
He is an interesting guy.
Might get a look in the bullpen come later in the year. And the list kind of goes on and on about guys who could end up making an impact. You have that every year where guys just step up. And, if these development guys we have in place keep at it, then eventually you're going to have guys just break through. And this list could be completely different come next year. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. And, thanks for mentioning some of those honorable mentions. But, yeah, I think you're right, Alex McFarland, another guy. Don't be shocked if you see him. I think we still have guys like Jordan Luplow if injuries happen. There's other guys, the Seth Johnsons of the world.
Ethan Wilson's still here. Mercado's still somehow.
Mercado. Yeah, there's a lot of the guys that are still in our system that what we might see before a lot of these guys. It's just the way it works.
Marshawn, technically a prospect.
Marshawn's technically a prospect
we
still.
get the idea. Yeah,
and I'll throw in Caleb Ricketts just for the catcher.
We sufficiently named everything. So when one of these guys breaks through, you can't come back to the podcast and say, "Hey, you forgot so and so." No, we tried our best. Prospects are unpredictable, but that is our list of guys we think can help the Phillies, and they will need the help. They will need all the help they can get. It's a long season, and I'm rooting for all these guys. But you got anything else?
No, I hope to get our guys on this podcast this season. I will be persistent in annoying them online. But if Chase or Rincones Jr., if you guys want to hop on and talk some ball, we're going to try. But no, that's all I got. I'm excited for the farm system this year. I think there's a half of those guys have a chance at getting a chance this year if the cookie crumbles the correct way for them. And I'm excited to keep this new season of the podcast going and get into the big league lineup next week. The good stuff.
Yes, sir. Spring training previews coming soon. We're going to break down the team, the big league team, and there's plenty to talk about there. So as always, thank you guys for listening, and we will be back to talk to you soon.
Go Phils.